In the aftermath of recent corruption scandals involving female politicians like former Minister Sadiya Farouk, suspended Minister Betta Edu, and suspended CEO of the Nigerian Social Investment Program Agency, Alima Shehu, there is a pressing question, which is, can we still champion the advancement of women and youth in the Nigerian governance, or are these scandals a stark reminder of the pitfalls of youth and gender-based quotas? Now today on the show, we'll confront the uncomfortable truth and explore whether women and youth are the hope or the hazard of Nigerian politics. Now joining us in the studio is Chizoba Akune. Now she'll help us dissect the claims and counterclaims, seeking insights into the complexities surrounding corruption allegation and their implication for the advancement of women and youth in Nigerian governance. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. It's good to have you.
It's always a pleasure having you and always being here.
All right, let's go straight into it. So, my intro, I mentioned that can we still champion the advancement of women and youth? You know, we are always clamoring, oh, we need more women in governance. We need more women in politics. Now, with the scandals that have been happening, can we still champion the fact that women should be involved in politics?
The first thing I'm going to say is, how many women are really in politics and how many women really have the floor? We have more men that have done this, and it's normal when you hear that it's a man that does it. But some ways, somehow, women and youth have a higher standard, and then they aren't so much in politics. So when one person does something, it's like, oh my God, all the women are doing something. Oh my God, all the women are doing something. And we need to realize that this is a systemic issue. Right? So I personally do not believe that, you see, these women, they didn't take their money for themselves. I personally do not believe. I personally do not believe. I believe that it's a systemic thing, and some way, somehow, they didn't play their cards well, because really, they don't even want to give you a seat at the table. And then when you got there, they told you to do some things, and you did it, and you got caught. Right? So that's the fallout of our system. But when we have more youth and women sit up and take a stand and decide that I've gotten this far, I don't know however I got to this table, but I've gotten to this table and I want to have integrity. We've had women that had, they had wonderful periods in their office, and we never had any scandals, and these women were trendsetters, they were pacesetters. So it just shows that you could make a decision to stand and decide that this is what I want to do, and you do it. And we have names, we have a lot of names of women and youths that have been able to do this.
All right, but in view of the conversation we're having, it's centered on women, and of course I understand your position in this matter, that you would, play the role of an affirmative, especially when it comes to saying that women can actually do better, right? But then let's even face the reality. We've seen women in public spaces. We've seen the abuse of office, without mentioning names, right? But then again, I would beg to differ from what's just said, that they never did it all on their own. Not true, because if you really have something that drives you, you would definitely stand your oath and never want to take side or tilt towards an influence towards making you do something negative. We have names of persons who have abused their office. Now the question here is not whether certain persons are telling them to do what. The issue is, what drives you? So if you do not have integrity, if you do not have anything you stand for, you will fall for anything. Now my question to you is, why do women who are always given opportunity to lead always find their way of, perhaps doing the other thing?
Okay, I think you should rephrase that question, because it's not all women.
Yes, I know.
So I think
without painting everyone with the same brush.
I think you should rephrase it to say a tiny bit of the fraction of women who are given offices, because see, the narrative has always been that when you give a woman something, she abuses it. When you give her this, she does that. But you're failing to understand that most women who have gotten to this space, they fought, they did a lot of things to be able to get to that space, right? And it's not necessarily them that takes the decision. Let's look at the Nigerian polity, for example. Like you mentioned Betty Edu, right? I do not believe that she took that money all on her own. I don't believe that. And it takes a woman who has been able to understand herself, the likes of the Dora Kundi, the likes of the Ngozis, women who have been able to understand themselves, women who have strong support systems, and who can be able to stand to say, this is the decision, and they have people supporting them. But when you don't have that strong support system, it doesn't matter, because these women that you just mentioned, they're very intelligent. They are actually very intelligent. I had to actually sit down to really look at their profiles, and really I was astounded. So definitely it's not women that are sent into offices that misbehave. The issue is that they have the godfatherism thing hanging over their neck, and they do not have a strong support system to say, this is what I want to do. And you know, let's look at it in the ministries. How many people in the ministries can take a decision by themselves without maybe the commissioner, and then maybe the governor hanging over the commissioner? And you know, it's a chain.
But you just talked about Dora Kuli.
Okay.
Did Dora Kuli not have influence around her? She obviously had.
She obviously had.
She tilted.
That's why I'm saying that.
So the case is, what drives you, like I said, most of them have good reputation, but like a fewer chunk, if I would borrow what you just said, a fewer number of them evidently never had anything that drives them other than what I'm going to make out of this. And that is why persons like the Better Edo fell into that, you know, scandal. And of course, I saw some persons who were trying to defend her, saying that, well, she actually had a cap in terms of what she needed to expend on, but then when it came to that point where she needed to go a bit further, she never took or got the approval. So what could be responsible for that? Okay,
this reminds me of this. You remember the first woman who was ever a senator in the National Assembly? You remember that story? What was her name? The first woman. You know, she never actually really took the money.
Are you going to be taking defense for her?
No, I'm not taking defense. I'm trying to explain something to you. You can't say that, and that's what I want you to understand. Men do this and they get away with it. Nobody is screaming. But because it's a woman, and the system has been built against women. And so when a woman has a misstep, everybody is screaming that she's having a misstep. So what I want you to understand is this. She may have something she wants to do, because definitely there is no way you will get to that place without having something that you want to offer, right? And she may have said that, okay, this is the amount of money I need to do it. But external influence will say, no, we are the ones that put you here. This is what we expect of you. And so they override her. So what I want you to understand is this. When women are in places of power and authority, what they need is people's support. What they need is people telling them that, see, it doesn't matter what you stand for. We are right behind you. And it doesn't matter how you got in here, because definitely the system has been built in such a way that you have to, you know, sometimes you have to go through the godfatherism route. So it doesn't matter how you got in here, but you've come here, you have something to offer, and we're standing behind you to ensure that you offer this, right? And one of the things that you know that these women face is the issue of fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of the image, fear of, women go through a lot of fear, right? And a woman who has not been able to overcome those internal riots that she has, when she gets into that public space, she's exposed. And don't forget, she doesn't have support system. So what happens is that the system begins to dictate what she does. But for a man, it's different, because he knows he would always get away with it.
Now, let me take your mind back, because you were giving us a case study of a one-time minister who was a female, and you're also talking about support system. The support system is somewhat the structure you have within. If that structure is faulty, what happens when an individual cries out? Let me give you an instance. We once had a former CBN governor from the north who once raised the alarm of certain monies that were looted from the NNPC. And what happened thereafter? He lost his job. So if you know that a system is trying to make you tilt towards the angle that it's not in any way productive, that is not in any way going to give you a good name, what happens to you crying out? Why must you have to tilt? Because an influence is saying you mustn't do this. You must play to the gallery. Would you not cry out? When Nigeria's not here and give you the support you need? So that's not an excuse for me. That's not an excuse for me. In the case of Better Edu that we're referencing, she could have cried out if really she was being forced to do something that was totally against her will.
No, Chizaba, do you think that if Better would have cried out, she wouldn't have been heard? No one would listen to her. Is that what you think?
Okay, crying out. Crying out. Okay, so basically this is how the system works, right? Number one, it starts from even the home. A young person, a young man, or a youth isn't working, but drives a car home, and nobody's asking you anything. Nobody is saying, how did you buy the car? What did you do to get the car? Everybody's rejoicing. So when you get into a place of, because I want us to have empathy for these people. I'm not saying that what they did is right, but I want you to understand them. You are a female who definitely, when you were born, there was really no rejoicing. And then you finally got into public office, and everybody in your village is rejoicing. Your family is rejoicing. It takes only a family that has strong moral compass that will be able to say, when you get there, don't disgrace us. It takes friends that are very accountable that will be able to say, okay, when you get there. And then when you won't have issues, have you seen the trolling on social media? And then she comes out to say, somebody said I should inflate, and then when I inflate, maybe I get a 1 billion or a 2 billion. Excuse me. Even social media will troll her. So she wouldn't have really gotten it. Now, for the likes of the Akunles, what happened is they knew what they wanted to do. They had that support system. And she had the backing of the president.
So you mean Edu never had the backing of the president?
I'm not saying she didn't have the backing of the president.
So why?
No, that is a different, that's a different one, because she was clamping down on drugs.
You think she wouldn't have gotten some tips here and there?
No, even though they gave her tips. And do you know that the truth is that it's now that we are rejoicing and we're thinking about her in good, and we're thinking about her name. Yeah. Then you didn't have social media, but it was like who is she? Who does she think she is? She just woke up one day and she wants to change the whole narrative. It's now. It's when she left the office that people started saying, oh my God, that woman did a lot of things. But I'm sure she would have been under fire. But she had that support system to help her. And she had lots of backing. So when I mean backing, not just your family support system, even people in the political circles. I think even the people are saying, okay, let youths and women go into political offices. We need to have more support groups for them. We need to have women coming together, youths coming together to say, okay, this is what we want to do. We know the system will be against us, but you know what? This is your safe space. No matter what happens, come in, and you know we would be there for you. So do you still believe that women are actually the hope of Nigerian politics? Yes, I really believe so, because really the men have driven us for how many years? And look at where we are. Josh,
exactly. For those who are looking up to persons like Better Edu would have been discouraged and disappointed, especially female folks, because come to look at it, she's one of the youngest ministers, you know, that have ever graced that opportunity. Then seeing how she messed up with that opportunity will make you want to think twice if you want to give a woman that opportunity. That's what I'm saying.
No, because what I would say is this: instead of us looking at it this way, because you don't look at something in abstract, look at it holistically. So why don't we say, okay, what were her feelings? It's clear. What happened? What happened? How can we mitigate against this? I think that's even. But you know, you made a statement, Chizaba. I'm for the women. I'm pro women. But you made a statement earlier, and you said, out there in the world where we are, women are not given opportunities. There is this narrative about women being in, you know, and he's driving it. Exactly. Now, don't you think Better, as we are at, don't you think she has actually proved that we cannot trust women with certain things? We had a female minister. No, it's not just Better. She never took any money from us, and right now she is in WTO. It's not just Better. We have Sadia. We also
once had a former minister of petroleum and resources.
That is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Okay, we're screaming, but can we draw a? Can we sit down to ask ourselves? Okay, what is going on in this system? Why is that it's when it's a woman that everybody's screaming? Because I'm sure that men before her, men after her, have been doing wonders and nobody's saying anything. So why don't we say, okay, what is this system that is rigged against a woman? See, when I began to have empathy for women, right, was when I've forgotten her name, the first female Senate president, when she was impeached. And I was like, for goodness sake, what did she do? Like, she had not, it was like, they sold something to you, you were about to take a step, and next everybody's already screaming about it. And you pitch something that wouldn't happen if it's a man. So I want people to show grace.
You see, you will always have negative and positive influences around you. It depends on which you want to tilt towards.
But how many?
So you can't just tell me that because a better Edo fell off the cliff because she never had the right influences. There will always be influences, whether right or wrong. The question is what drives you? And when that influence is trying to overwhelm you, what do you do next?
No, but this
I think that's the point we should be looking at.
You're tilting, you know, I think my issue, okay, let me explain my issue right now with this conversation, right? My issue is that we're looking at it like, these women have done this, they are young people, they've done this, so therefore, the youth and the women should not be given an opportunity because there is
a narrative out there already.
Yeah, because this is the trend that they're going to face. And then we're forgetting that we've had other people that were in bigger offices who didn't compromise. We're forgetting that men also are compromising. So I think the question is, what is it about when a woman gets an opportunity that every man wants to claw down on her? Every man wants to ensure that they want to put her under a microscope. That's not the issue. And then
we talked about Dora Akunle. You can tell what drives Dora Akunle. It's all about making a difference.
But what I'm saying is,
regardless of the fact that you have influences around her, whether negative or positive, what drives you and what you are going to stand for, regardless of the odds.
It shouldn't just be a female thing.
We already understand.
It shouldn't be a female thing.
No, it's not a female issue.
It should be an everybody.
It's not a gender issue. I'm talking about what drives you. I keep stating that fact. What drives you? If what drives you is all about what you're going to make as a difference, you would not tilt no matter the influence on you. This is a young person who we think would have done better given the fact that she has the support of social media. If she had cried out, wouldn't she have gotten some sort of...
Gotten.
Now,
and then we don't even know if she would have gotten because she didn't cry out, right? But in my opinion, I don't think she would have gotten.
All right, let's go back to the screening process. Now, there was a screening process. Right. Now, do you think we should begin to look at the veracity, of this process? Do you think the problem actually started from the process? Because why would the government actually put someone who, they kind of vouch for, who, like Josh said, does not have a drive, or someone who...
And don't forget, this same woman once had a scandal.
What do you have to say about the screening process?
I think let's move it from whether it was a woman
or a man
or a youth. The whole system has an issue, right? I don't even want to go into plenty of stories of all our latest happenings and everything was seen on, and everybody is screaming and all. Give the right people put the right people in the right places.
But she went through the screening and it felt like she was the perfect fit.
If I want to do a screening, right, and I decide that okay, I want to give Josh a position, I know in my heart that it's Josh I want to give it to. So it doesn't matter who comes with a bigger degree or a bigger expertise or a bigger whatever. Of course, he's going to get it, and he knows he's going to get it. Won't you get it? You get it. So I think the first thing is the screening process. It's everywhere in the world where everybody, what I just narrated with him, it happens everywhere in the world. But let me explain what makes it worse in Nigeria. We got it wrong in Nigeria by putting people that don't deserve it in those positions. I'm not saying better doesn't deserve it, right? But you should have been able to vouch for people's integrity. You should be able to vouch for not just their academic prowess, not just their professionalism, integrity, what are their core values, what drives them as it says. These are the things that you should look at. And I'm sorry to say, but we're looking at it as a he thing, right? But the truth is, it's an indictment on the government. it's an indictment because, for goodness sake, 3 people having the same issues under your administration. I think we need to sit back to say
under different administrations.
Under different administration,
yeah.
That's under your administration. That's under whoever
okay.
is the head at that point. Then there's something we need to look into. There's something we need to look into, and we're looking at it now because it's at the top, but then it has to start from
the grassroots.
The grassroots. It has to start from just the local government. It has to start from the community. It has to start from even you as a person, you're in an association and you're in charge of funds. You're going to the market and you're in fact, it starts from even the home, the wife. You're going to the market and you're inflating the list.
Let me even take it away from what she just said when it comes to screening. There was a time in the history of Nigeria where a certain individual, his name was sent to the legislature for screening at the AFCC. And what happened? They threw that name back. And he was there as an acting chairman until after a long time. So when it comes to screening, like she said, we get it wrong because we tend to play to the gallery. Oh, because I knew how I came in as a Senate, president. And of course, I will always do the bidding of the president.
Now you're talking.
So when it comes to cases where we need to pay thorough focus on, especially when it comes to the track record, the history of this person, what has been his mantra when it comes to corruption, when it comes to money management, how has he fared or how has she fared? If we don't look into that, we always play to the guy, okay, come in, take your bow and leave. And at the end of the day, we get what we want.
No, but the question I should ask is, first of all, the people that are going into public service, really, did they go there to serve you?
Okay, that's a
totally
different question.
So that's why I'm saying we should try to have empathy. We should try to understand it. We should
empathy towards corruption?
Not towards corruption, but towards the individuals that have been thrown in there. And let's ask ourselves, how can we make it better? The truth is that right now the system is skewed. And yes, we know Nigeria will get better, right? But we are not going to close our eyes and say Nigeria is getting better now. Okay? So understand the whole system. What happened to make the system this way? And that's where history is very important. Now, my first degree, I did political science. And that's because everyone knows I love Nigeria very well. I really want to know what's going on. And some of the things I've been able to discover is that, for example, prior to, I think it was 1980, when they had the civil service reform. Okay. Prior to that, the civil servants will go to work, do their job, and go home. Why? Because when you get to a certain level, you have your car, you have your house, you don't need to cheat, you don't need to do anything, and you go home. And then one day, you come to the office and find out that you were told to leave. Without any car, without any house. And people saw their uncles, people saw their fathers go through that. So first of all, it's a mind thing. So you mean that because those situations now are changing, so an individual start planning ahead on how to make do with public funds, so that you don't get. I want you to understand this. So everybody that is not everybody, most of the people going in there already have it at the back of their mind that I need to secure myself. And that's why I ask a question. Have you seen, how many people have we seen that maybe they had those offices, those offices, and they left that office maybe after the 4 years, after the 8 years, after the 3 years, and maybe they got maybe another job, or they went back to the classroom? Or how many people have you really seen? And that's back to what you're saying about what drives them.
All right, Chizoba. The president, it's getting really heated. So the president actually said, and he promised, that we're going to have more women and more youth, during his administration. And I'll ask again, I asked this before, do you think the better I do? All right, let's not leave Tunji Ojo out of it.
Exactly. Let's start calling their names. Like there was a list, and I was like, okay, I'm not seeing women listed on this list. What's going on? And you see, he's quite about that. He didn't say anything.
No, listen. All right,
so do you think the better I do and Tunji Ojo fraud saga would actually affect the plans that the president actually had for youth and women?
Okay. You know, earlier when I said that if she has cried out to social media, nobody would have heard, right? But then there's another flip to the coin.
But you know,
which
sorry
means
about that. You know, the youth were actually really happy for better.
Yeah, they were happy.
So I think the frustration, the trolling and all, you know, all of that actually comes from the frustration of, you know, you having a high, you know, expectation on someone, and then just few months after they get to office, they're actually diverting funds. So you're not going to fault social media people for actually, you know, ranting and pointing out their frustration that way. So now, do you think this has actually gone against everything the president actually said about having women and youth in politics?
Okay. It depends. It's two-sided. If he wants to consider, you know, what's happening on social media and use it as a leverage, right? He would say, let's not go there. And then he has, you know, he has backings, he has evidence, he has receipts of why youth and women should not be given that
Officers.
But if he wants to go beyond that to say, okay, we really want to work on the system, we really want to know what exactly is going wrong, how can we better the system, then he would be able to say, okay, more women and more youth should be given these opportunities. Trust me, you don't even know half of what goes on in those spaces. We were just seeing a little and was screaming. Like, it would, the average Nigerian would be shocked if they found out what happens behind those closed doors. And so that's why I'm saying, I'm not advocating for corruption. I'm advocating for grace. I'm advocating for structure. I'm advocating for support systems that would help them.
Can I come in here?
Yes, please.
Because you talked about Tunji Ojo, right? I am not attacking your gender, right? I'm attacking an individual who has nothing they stand for. The Tunji Ojo you just mentioned pushed a reform recently on the immigration service.
Now let's move.
And,
no, let's not.
And we saw how much people applauded that effort. Now, the Tunji Ojo coming into this conversation is not because he has been found wanting. There's an investigation as to how his involvement with the company that received the fund from Betta Ojo came in. If he actually had resigned through the CAC or directly to his wife. That's the question here. And how the contract was influenced, if it was actually his that did the inflation or not. But the question is, when it comes to issues that border on financial impropriety, is what we're talking about. So if a woman is championing a cause, and obviously what she wants to do is towards helping to alleviate the poverty situation of the people, do it. But when it comes to influences for you to tilt, cry out to the people. If Betta Edo had done that, people, perhaps she would have gotten the support she needed.
Well, I think precedents, I don't think we need to call names, but I think precedents have even shown that there were other schemes that were meant for people in past administrations, people who were, you know, who were the right fit, people who we felt had integrity, people who felt that they were above board. We've had these same issues of them, you know, saying they wanted to do something and then not being able to do it because of whatever in quotes, and they tried to cry out, but they were silenced.
Silenced by who?
And the funds were not used for what they were supposed to use for.
Thank you so much.
So that's what I want us to look at. So just let's apply grace, right? I know right now she would be, in fact, she's upset. When you even look at what she's saying, she's upset. She's not upset that they said the money is taken. She's upset that you guys can't set me up. You cannot.
All right, the investigation is still
ongoing. So
we'll get to best. Exactly. Thank you, Chizoba. We thank you so much for your time. It was very insightful.
Thank you. Thank you. But let's apply grace. Let's apply grace. Let's look at our systemic issues. Let's look at, okay, how can we have support systems? How can we support these people? And training them won't solve anything, because when somebody makes a mistake, the next person comes and makes the same mistake. Do we want to say women and youth should not come in? No.
All right, thank you so much. Well, coming up next is Market Trend. Samuel Lukata, our correspondent, brings you updates from the market. Just stay with us.